I am back on trail. This is turning into an historic winter in Virginia. I've lived here 43 years and have never seen one quite like this. In 2006 we had snow in mid-December, and we didn't see dry ground until sometime in March. But we did not have the bitter cold that we're having now. And you'll probably remember I made it across the James River, and the next day I hiked up that mountain. They had predicted 2.4 inches of snow. Up there it was more like 6 to 8, which in and of itself is not bad, but what happened is it snowed that amount, and then it rained a little bit that night, and it made a crust. And so it did the same thing where I am now, but that James River section, 10 miles, I would have walked 40 anywhere else in exchange. It was absolutely brutal. And so I got to a shelter that night, and I was exhausted. It was a dry mountain. I saw places where there were springs, but the springs were just solid slabs of ice. You couldn't get any water from them. So that morning I spent probably a little over an hour melting ice and snow so I would have water. And I opted to return the same path that I had come up. So I simply backtracked because I knew I had broken trail, and that at least I would have footsteps and I wouldn't have to crash through. Like I had the day before. So I called for a ride and got picked up and took a day to reassess. So I've got a little different plan. There's no place along the eastern seaboard there's no place on the AT that is escaping this bitter winter nasty weather. So anyhow, I've got a new plan. Maybe not so many miles per day. Maybe get off the trail a little more. Have a slightly lighter pack. Watch the forecast and get snowshoes. If I'd had my snowshoes, it would have been smooth sailing. But trust me, I never imagined I'd need snowshoes in Virginia. So, all right, well, not too many hikers out here. And I should have empty shelters. Yes, that is the trail. A lot more snow up here than down below. That is the trail. Whew. Well, you can plan all you want, but there's some things that are just out of your control. You can see footprints on the ground. Those are my tracks in this morning. Now I'm heading out. At the top of this mountain, there was just way too much to deal with. Those shrubs and mountain laurels and witch hazels were loaded with ice and snow, and if you tried to bushwhack around them, a lot of times it was even worse. And it's the kind of thing that, you know, if it warms up a little, maybe just fine. If that snow and ice got off, it got off, and the plants went upright. But it was just a tangled mess. I couldn't get through it. And I was soaked. I mean, you might as well get down and roll around in the snow and ice, because everything was falling. And between my back and my pack, it was just loaded with ice. And it wasn't fun, and it was so slow. I met a hiker from North Carolina earlier last week who talked about this kind of thing, and he says he likes to get out and walk. He doesn't like to mess around. And this was just way too much messing around. I mean, if I wanted to get through, I could, but it's so slow. I mean, do I really want to go out there and fight all that mess and maybe make 5 to 8 miles in a day? It's just crazy. That's not one of my goals. So I'll again reassess and see what we're going to do. Well, this is when you really want to make miles. I started out with micro spikes and quickly realized I needed to upgrade, and thankfully when I got dropped off I had my snowshoes in the car, and without them I would just be floundering worse than I already am. Took a pretty good fall. I don't know if you can see. I didn't even know I cut myself, but if I'd had gloves on, I probably would have been okay, but I was getting too hot. So there's a bit of a learning curve with snowshoes. You can't walk like you normally do. If you step on one of the snowshoes, you're going down. So it's kind of an awkward wide stance thing. And I'm going to swing around and show you the trail, and maybe you can get an idea of what I have to go through to get past all this. So just hang on a second. So I skirted around all of this. The trail entered into that mess, and I have no idea where it came out. And even when you find a blaze, a so-called blaze, it's little more than a smudge, like somebody took a stick of chalk and rubbed it on the tree, and then threw a bucket of water on it and washed most of it off. This is horrible horrible trail maintenance. And, you know, at a minimum, you should be able to get blazes up. So I'm really disappointed. It's very slow going. In winter conditions, something like this can be dangerous. If I was good with technology, I could get far out working, but all it does is drain my phone. And it's not much of a help. Okay, I got a game for you. It's called Find the Blaze. We're starting at the base. And we're going up. Can you find it? That's it right there. That's one of the better ones out here. I just got to a shelter and considered staying here, but I'm going to change my mind. And here's why. This is winter and it's very cold, and a lot of animals hibernate. I want to show you this. I don't know if you can see that track. There's 4 little pads there. That's about as big as my hand. There's another one. There's another one. If that bear's not hibernating, it is hungry and it's looking for food. And I'm not into providing it for him. So I will take a minute and rest before I continue on. This is Bailey's Gap Shelter. It's a pretty standard shelter on the AT. So far this morning was tough. I got to the trailhead and I had to backtrack to where I had stopped the other day. It was farther than I thought. It was about 1.5 miles probably. So when I reached that point, I turned around and proceeded continuing south. And that's where I am right now. It was a very poorly maintained section of trail, even though the and I will cut them some slack for the snow, because that's pulled down a lot of stuff. But maintenance, trail maintenance, in my mind, begins with blazing, and you can blaze anywhere on the trail, and it's a really important aspect of the AT, and they've dropped the ball on this part. So those bear tracks were fairly fresh. There's been no snow blown into them, and hopefully it won't be back. Hopefully it won't go down the trail and check out the next shelter. That's a pretty big bear. And all these tracks are super recent. And guess what? He's going in the same direction I'm going. This is kind of a different section of the Appalachian Trail. There are a lot of pine trees along here. It's fairly flat, kind of swampy. But as I've hiked today, there have been lots of tracks on the trail, and mostly they're from deer. And here's a place where a deer bedded down last night, and you can see how it kind of melted the snow. Also, there's a little bit of blood, it looks like, in the snow. I'll show you. So, I don't know if that deer had a lung issue or what, but yeah, there are deer tracks all along here. I've also seen dog or coyote tracks, and of course those bear tracks, which are what kind of concern me right now. But I'm in their territory, not the other way around. So I'll deal with it as best I can. So I got a little fire going, and I'm drying off my clothes before I put my puffy jacket on. Then I'll cook, and hope I don't get any visits from bears. Some people think campfires will keep a bear away. I'm not so sure about that, but I had a good hike today. Perfect temperatures for me. The only issue was getting lost, and that section in the open woods with poor blazing and lots of trees down. I mean, you can't blame people for that, because it is an extraordinary winter. Snowshoeing is there's a learning curve to that, and when you fall with snowshoes, it's pretty hilarious. I found that it doesn't work to step one snowshoe on the other, and that may seem it's easier said than done, let's say that. But I got the knack of it, and I got about 15 miles in on the snowshoes today. This is day 13. I was off trail for about 3 of those days. I started out averaging, well, I think my high day was something like 27. I had a 25, lots of 20s, and then I hit that bluff mountain and only got 10. Then, of course, the next day I was backtracking, so none of those miles counted. So there'll be tough miles, but there'll be better days coming, I'm sure. And there are good things about the snow. It smooths things out quite a bit as long as you have the proper footwear, be it micro spikes or snowshoes. Anyhow, this is quite the shelter. I'm feeling very luxurious. And then the bunk situation is pretty good too. So they got big flat bunks there. I don't know how many would sleep, maybe 3 or 4, and then they have one up above. I'm going to sleep up there tonight. And should have a good night's sleep and get up early and get started. Straight ahead is the trail. My mouth is so cold I'm slurring. But that's a relatively clear part of the trail for today. And there are all kinds of hazards out here. This is one of them. This is what's falling from the trees. and I've gotten hit in the head with it a couple times. You'd think it would knock some sense into me, but that's not happening. It's 12 degrees out here, but the brilliant sun seems to be somehow melting some of the ice, and it's raining down on me. You could see that tree right there. The bark is coated with ice, and they're huge accumulations of ice on the little branches. It's really slow going. I'm going to push ahead if I want to make it to Pearisburg. That is West Virginia. That ridge straight ahead is the one I have been working over this morning to get up here. And this place is called Rice Fields. I don't know if somebody owned it and farmed it, but it's considerably more grown up than it was when I hiked the AT in 2019. I actually camped right there. So the sun's fully out and we've got open terrain, so I'm going to get my sunglasses out and get some miles down.